staff, management, or sponsors.
Time for Curries Corner, brought to you by Big Rapids Pennzoil and Auto Repair, Seth Winger at the Winger Insurance Agency, Gilbert's Carpets Plus Color Tile, Barrington Firearms and Training Center, DW2 Drywall,
the Monk Janowitz Funeral Home in Big Rapids, and the Janowitz Family Funeral Home in Remus.
Thank you, Bob. Good morning, everyone out in La La Land. That song we played just before the show started, the locals all heard it, but if you're outside the area and you're listening, it's One Friend by Don Seals. Listen to that song. It's so true. It's such a, just a good song. Hey, Bruce? I got Bruce Borkavich here this morning with me. Local news, Van Johnson's having a birthday today. I want to wish Van another year of happiness. We've lost some people in this town. You know, Bob, we're all lucky to wake up every morning with some good health. I know we all have hurts now and then, but alcohol poisoning is really an issue that really bothers me bad. I was telling the guys this morning, I've drank my fair share over the years, and so have most of the guys at the table.
But officers are required by policy to, if we're out interacting with someone and we know they're a .30, of course .10 is drunk, we have to take them to the hospital before, like if they were driving, before we even process them or arrest them. So yeah, it's.
Well, my prayers are for those people that have lost some young people just of late here. National news. What do you think on L.A., man? That's something I think it's great that Trump's intervened on that and put some Marines in there to take control. You know, those people that say, you have a right to protest, but to be destructive like that and tear things apart and burn.
It's the same playbook from the left, and that is create a lie and repeat it. And if you listen, they're very well coordinated. And what's the battle cry right now? It's mostly peaceful protest. We heard that before. Yeah. And I guess if you say it enough, some people will believe it. Anyone who thinks what they're doing is mostly peaceful, it just isn't in touch with reality. It's disgusting, the disrespect, and whatever. It's all about tribalism in our particular political parties and affiliation. And it's very, Fetterman has the ability to step back and say, even though, he's a Democrat, and fired up today.
Yeah, I see it. But they were flying what flags?
The Mexican flag.
Yeah, and, what's that all about?
Well, you know what? That's great. Move to Mexico.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be proud of your heritage. I'm of Serbian heritage, and we're proud of it. But my immigrant grandparents, they pounded into us how great it was to be an American and how proud they were to be Americans. So if you're here and you're living here and enjoying the benefits of being here, pledge allegiance to our flag.
January 6th, they keep on throwing that in our faces and saying, well, you guys did it, guys did it. What's your thoughts on that January 6th? How are we going to get rid of that? I mean, that wasn't the right thing to do, was it, Bruce?
That will never be properly investigated. First of all, the only person killed, regardless of what you heard about police officers, a police officer died of a stroke several days later. How anyone could substantiate and justify the fact that male officer used deadly force against her and killed her, I don't get. That would not pass muster in any police department I ever worked for. A person has to pose imminent threat of death or great bodily harm before a police officer or any citizen can use deadly force. And how anyone could articulate that a female, and she wasn't like she wasn't a bodybuilder, weightlifter, she wasn't a martial arts expert, she wasn't 6'2", she was fairly average stature, female, totally unarmed. And I can't rationalize how a police officer can take the slack out of a trigger on the torso of a female coming toward them unarmed. I can't wrap my head around it, Pat. So none of that will ever be transparent or investigated properly as to I don't think we'll ever know what really happened there.
Well, even if you did find out, the people over there on the other side, that they won't agree with it, they won't believe it anyway.
No, they won't. That whole thing, it's just disgusting. I'm so glad I live in Big Rapids and not Washington, D.C.
Yeah, but it just keeps on going on. The cities are being dismantled by these people, and they get away with it. I think it's great that I see the approval rate is 54% on what they're doing.
Yeah.
I think it's probably higher than that.
Yeah.
Really, if it happened to you in your town, you'd want the president to step up and say, hey, here comes some National Guard or Marines
You
or
bet.
whatever.
And, you know, I've talked before about an awakening with our police chiefs. Numerous occasions over the past several years, we have police chiefs who, rather than do the right thing, are protecting their jobs and their careers. And I get that. They have mortgages, they have cottages to pay for. But those police officers, the police chiefs out in L.A., it happened in Grand Rapids with the Christopher Schur shooting. These police chiefs or sheriffs, whatever it is, are told, you know, by politicians, do this or you'll lose your job. And I think any police chief, when you get your job, the first thing you should do is type your letter of resignation. And anytime anyone asks you to do something you know is wrong, resign, go somewhere else. But we have seen just a really terrible lack of leadership and fortitude from police chiefs, especially in the big city all over the country. They know what the right thing to do is. They know what the law requires. But when they're told, do this or else you'll lose your job, they protect their job.
Yeah, I don't understand what their motive is, their agenda. I mean, I just don't understand why they'd want to change America from being a beautiful country that it is and live off the land and work every day and just be with your family, you know, and security and everything. Just mind-boggling to me. But
it is.
I'm glad Trump's president. I still stand behind him. I know
Amen.
he's made some dumb things, maybe, but I don't know what you're
doing fantastic. The bite he's taking out of this, and he'll take this bite and he'll chew and he'll take this bite and maybe 3 bites later get to swallow a little. It's incredible. The pace that he is working is incredible. He's doing what the people elected him to do, and you know, of course, the other side hates him, but
Yeah.
the other side opposes anything he does.
You don't have a break right now, thanking our sponsors? No, we don't have to.
For once, I'm updating the computer. So
Oh, okay.
It needed
Sure.
an update.
I just thought
Welcome
we'd
to
switch.
Windows
All right,
10.
well, we're going to switch conversations. Before we get into what I got Bruce here for today, and good morning, Bruce, again. I appreciate you coming in this morning. We're going to talk about some local government here. I would just like to say this to the people that, I think some bad things turn out to wake up you to see what the hell's going on in our country, in our town, in our township, in our county. But the next time you go to the ballot, really look who's on that ballot, because right now we're dealing with somebody that nobody really knows. It's a very crucial position in our county. It's a drain commission. Jack Robinson was a drain commissioner years ago when I was younger, and I remember him. And things went along pretty smoothly. And then since then, we've had people in there that are okay. Don't get me wrong; they're nice people. But where am I going to go with that one? I guess because I don't mean to really crucify anybody, but it's a very powerful position. Let's put it that way. And I think that just because they're on the Republican ballot, they are automatically.
Although in this case, I think she was unopposed.
Oh yeah, she always is.
She was
always
unopposed.
are. Yeah. Nobody runs against that position. It's just like so many other. The other thing we do is, and it was unbelievable what happened up to Green Township. For me to see that happen was unbelievable. But the people are waking up, and the county commission, the same thing. Talking about the county commissioner, for folks that haven't been to a commission meeting, you ought to go, because Chris Zimmerman definitely is for that. I think the next time you go to the ballot, talk to people, talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors. Are they doing a good job in that position, or just because they're Republican, are they worthy of that position? Just ask yourself that and ask your friends. But I brought Bruce on this morning. Excuse me. Big things are going on in Big Rapids Township. And you know, it's kind of sad. It happened to the city folks not too long ago, too. And I felt sorry for them, but they didn't have the coalition that we have here in the township, I guess. These people are standing up. But it's a lot of money. There's a lot of folks out there being hurt right now. I don't think the people that signed that petition in 2018 realized what it was going to be and how it was going to affect all these people. It was just, it was almost like, oh, it doesn't matter what it costs, just do it. If they would have known how much it was going to cost, I think they would have said, wait a minute, we have to.
Quote from Admiral Yamamoto in the attack of Pearl Harbor is after the attack. The Japanese were celebrating, think they've done something, and I think his famous quote was, "I fear all we have done is to wake us." Supposed to run our country, our county, our city, our township, whatever it is. And so so just to give everyone I'm really trying to, I try to always stick to the facts. Historically, in 2018, a petition was passed to then the drain commissioner can form a board of determination. I'm not sure who picks that board. Board of determination. Those are 3 what they call uninterested people. That doesn't mean they don't care. That means they don't have properties or businesses or anything in the drain district. And so 18, I really don't know what happened between 2018 and now. I do know that in 18 there were some flooding problems. Seasonally that's going to happen. Every 10, 15, 20 years you're going to get a massive rain that
Pursue it then.
Well,
and why didn't they complete the whole mission? Now it's 7 years later, and nobody's conversed with anybody. There's no transparency on this at all. 7 years later, we get a tax bill, some for 90, some for 200, and some. Mine was 5,500.
At the meeting. In my naive world, I was new, and we had a new board member. I thought maybe she was coming to introduce herself. That's actually what I thought, Pat. She came with a very highly respected, experienced drain attorney, maybe the preeminent drain attorney in the state of Township. You are also going to have about almost 9.9%, almost 10% of the project, which is about $600,000. You know me, Pat, it's pretty hard to make me speechless. I was speechless. We were all just from one who does want it to happen. And, we've talked about this, Pat. What's our job as a board? What's my job as a supervisor? Find out within reason what the people want and make it happen. Now, of course, if the people came to me and said, hey, we want to legalize the sale of methamphetamines in the township, there are going to be times apportionment. And you'll hear 2 words, Pat, apportionment and assessment. Apportionment has to deal with the formula and the math and how someone decided what your percentage of the whole project, not so much the civil process. So we got a hold of the court and we're told that, but there's a $2,000 bond you have to post, which I was shocked because, as I mentioned at the county meeting the other day, bonds are for bad guys. I had $15,000. So to have your little hearing, your little day in court, you had to post $15,000. And Pat, I talked to 8 or 10 people who came to me in tears or near tears who said, I want to appeal it. I'm sorry, I just can't. I can't afford $15,000. So our board, not only to actually appeal our apportionment, but to support our constituency, voted to appeal. And so we spent the $15,000, filed our appeal, and then last week we show up for the appeal. The first thing I was shocked to find is there's no judge in the courtroom. We're just using the courtroom. No judge. The attorney for the drain commissioner really was running the show and organizing everything.
Wow.
And so we were all there, and we had our case prepared, and they went through everyone else's case. And then there were mistakes made, documented mistakes made, where the drain commissioner and the engineers and the attorney made mistakes in these apportionments. And it came to us last. I guess they saved the best for last, because as we were prepared to state our position, the drain commissioner got up and said, by the way, we think Big Rapids Townships, which was 9.9, but because Ferris State University chipped in, they didn't have to. Ferris did it being good neighbors. They figured out what their part is, and they volunteered to pay it, 600 and some thousand. And then because this is the 131 corridor, MDOT came up with, I think, 1.2 million. So it's not the board's money, it's taxpayers' money. So they got up and both not only advocated, if they had advocated for not lowering ours, I get that. They both said ours should be drastically raised. So the people who set our apportionment, 9.9%, when we asked for our day in court, now they're saying it should be drastically raised. So first of all, in my mind, they're admitting to either gross incompetence or corruption, retribution, one of the two, because you're the ones who said it, and now you're saying it should be a lot more. So there's a board of review is kind of the jury. The best way I could call them is in the jury in the civil process. It's 3 citizens from the area with no document, something that she made. And she said that, look, this is their case against us. Look, all over the state of Michigan, we checked, and townships have paid a lot more for drain projects, 20, 25, even 30%. That's their evidence. And as I mentioned at the county commission meeting the other day, I'm used to the criminal court system where you have to substantiate a document. If I bring in a document and I'm prosecuting Pat Curry, and I bring in a document saying, Pat Curry is a crook, and here are all the times I know he was a crook, well, I have to prove that's true. I have to go through and prove who made the document. We have to fact check, those sorts of things. None of that. So she brought this up. They brought a drain commissioner from Livingston County who said, oh yeah, Township should pay a lot more. And the board, with no discussion, said, and by the way, we're going to increase the Big Rapids Township assessment from 9.9%, this is the interesting part, to 18%. Pretty big increase. That takes us from 300,000 and change to 600,000 change. But here's what's even more interesting, Pat. Guess what the number is? Guess what the percentage, the conspiracy theorist here, that was making a statement that we're going to have you pay more than the county, right, because this is your punishment. How dare you challenge us? Yeah. And as I mentioned at the meeting the other day, I push in retribution, because how dare us challenge them? And the formula for, these are called at-large assessments. The township and the county have an at-large assessment. So they can't use the formula that they use for everyone else. Everyone else's formula, Pat, is based on where you are in location to the drain, where you are in location to the creek that goes through there, how many acres you have, is it residential or commercial, runoff factors. There's a bunch of stuff that's factored in, and then each individual landowner gets an assessment based on that. That's their apportionment. You don't do that with the at-large. The at-large means everyone in that district, which in this case the township or county, is responsible. So number of 18%. And I've heard a few people who said, well, maybe the board was trying to put some of the burden on the township to give some relief to the individuals, because right, that all well, guess what? Congratulations, because we did some calculations yesterday, and you did save some people $125,000. Business owner, a lot of businesses, a lot of money. So if that's what your goal was, okay. I guess if I were talking to that board of review, I would have said, stay in your lane. This isn't your time to make what you think is right. Right. Signed on to, and it was delivered to the drain commissioner the other day. I could read it if you'd like to. It's probably of interest.
Yeah, sure.
Let me just say, WBZX Big Rapids.
Oh, it's 9 o'clock. Thank you, Bob Aldridge at 1039. Hey, Bruce.
I'm not sure. What I do know is that we did some numbers yesterday, and commercial businesses are going to be saved about $125,000.
Well, so they have to be in it. I mean,
yeah. Oh, yeah. If they're in it, they're in it.
They're in it.
But if the intent of the board of review was to make things right, I think it's overreach on their part, and they really didn't accomplish much for the individual landowner, but they did save a lot of money for our businesses. So I'm going to read a letter that Chris Zimmerman penned that I signed on to, because this has been presented to the drain commissioner, and the media has it. Dear Ms. Miller, to follow up on yesterday's Board of Commissioners meeting, Mr. Borkavich and I have formulated a plan of action as it relates to Tonkin Drain. It is clear in our eyes that the people to inspect all of the culverts in the Tonkin Basin and find out if they're in working order. And that's important, Pat, because we've had so many, Gordy Gilbert, so many people say, there's a drain there that's been plugged, because there would be a cost. We suggest that you notify all parties involved, contractors, etc., that a movement is afoot amongst the citizenry to abandon this project. On a related note, the Board of Commissioners plans on 2025. The Board of Commissioners will discuss your findings at the Finance Committee meeting June 17th and at our regular meeting Wednesday, June 18th. Thank you for your anticipated cooperation. Chris Zimmerman, with a copy to them.
A good meeting the other day. I went to it for as long as I could stay. You guys all did a good job. But, it's really sad. It goes back to at the voting booth, know what kind of people that we're putting in these positions that can be a hinder to all of us. And like right now, Bob, and I want to talk to Bob once in a while too, and to have an issue, a drain problem, that means it's a detriment to lives, livestock, land, or whatever. You probably sudden escalating inflation and everything else. The other thing that bothers me on the delay on this thing is the cost of lawyers and the engineers. I was talking to somebody yesterday that happened to talk to a business owner that's in that business. Won't mention his name, but I know Gerber Construction's up north, pretty sharp people, but I didn't say that. Usually the cost of engineering is around, I think he said 6 or 7, 8%, something like that of the project.
We're way north of that.
Yeah, I know it, and that's pretty sad. And the other thing is, if it did happen to stop, Bruce, I understand we owe all this money anyway.
Yeah.
Somebody ought to be liable for that as far as I'm concerned. I mean, the work's not even Northland Drive. Now, maybe it has, but
I think in 18 it was, Pat. And interesting, when the engineers and the attorney put their case on at the day of appeal, they only might be half of the project, $4 million project, because a bunch of money's been spent, and the drain commissioner has this ability. Yes, and there's a lot of things to discuss and consider now. But at the meeting I talked, there's not one thing in that drain code that prohibited. There's a lot that gives drain commissioners a lot of authority. There's not one thing that prohibits a drain commissioner from forming a study group, getting together the political leaders from the county, the township, the political leaders, key landowners, business owners, and collaborating and discussing and find out options. There's no competing engineering company here. Our commissioner hired the Spicer Group, and they've engineered this. Well, my friend Lori Block had a great analogy. If you go to an engineering company and say, here's what we got going on, build us a project, they're not going to build you a 10% project. Lori said that would be like someone walking into her office next door and saying, I've been thinking about, what do you think? Should I sell my house? Well, what's a realtor going to say? Sure. That's how they make money. Right. So you give this great big, what's perceived as a problem to this engineering company. They're not going to make money by designing a little solution to this project. I told the engineers at the meeting the other day, about the old saying, to a man that has only a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Right. And if, and so could there have been competing engineering companies? Could we have looked at this in phases? Should we have started by saying the first thing we're going to do is assess and check the health and function of every drain in this area, culverts, drains. There's so many places it seems like they could have involved the community in a collaborative spirit, but the drain law gives the drain commissioner a ton of authority. Well, you know what, Pat? That doesn't mean you have to.
Yeah.
That means, I gave another analogy the other day. There's probably 10 times in my career, especially being on a drug team, serving over 300 search warrants, I probably could have used deadly force in my job because the law allowed it based on those circumstances, and I chose not to, Pat. So because the law allows you to do something doesn't mean you make the choice to do it.
Yeah. Well, Bob, I'm going to take a break here, but before I do, for you folks, have you seen Gilbert carpet tile and color tile and all that van yet? Have you seen it, Bob?
I haven't seen it.
Boy, it's a beautiful van.
Nice.
It's good advertising.
Good deal. Yeah.
So let's thank Gilbert's and all of them there.
You got it. It's Curries Corner here on B1039.
Looked at Curry's.
Pete, why do you come to Curry's?
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I go to Curry's to get the cheeseburger with caramelized onions and mayonnaise and ketchup. And you're not going to ask, where's the beef? It's going to be in the bun.
I'm Seth Wenger from Wenger Insurance. For more than 100 years, we've been providing professional service and competitive insurance to West Michigan. Come visit us on Perry Street in Big Rapids or give us a call at 796-0778. We're here for you now, and we'll be here when you need us most. 796-0778.
Hi, this is Pat Curry. When I think of drywall, there's only one guy in town that I think of, and that's Dale at 231-679-0475. If you want a great job done in your house, whatever you need, drywalling, call Dale. Dale and Frank will do a great job for you. Great pair of Americans. DW2 Drywall. Give them a call at 231-679-0475. Remember, DW2 Drywall.
Pennzoil in Big Rapids is your quick-stop shop for oil changes and so much more. With certified techs and 35 years experience, they'll have you in and out in a flash, and a free car wash with every service. And don't forget about tires. As quickly as the seasons change in Michigan, it's easy to lose your grip. Luckily, Pennzoil in Big Rapids has the tires you need to dominate all seasons in Michigan. Big tires, fast tires, grippy tires, sleek tires. Go see Zach Wells at Big Rapids Pennzoil today. He'll get you back on the road and ready to roll. That's Big Rapids Pennzoil, located at 710 North State Street, or give them a call at 231-796-4730.
Gilbert's Carpets Plus, color time. Stop and shop with us for a while.
Gilbert's Carpets Plus is a family-owned and operated business with over 40 years experience. You might know us for our installs, but did you know we have an entire warehouse full of cash and carry products? Carpet, vinyl plank, ceramic, trims and transitions, underlayment, with most of the major brands. We have what you want when you need it. Find the perfect look for less. Let your cash make a splash and a flash with Gilbert's Cash and Carry products. Gilbert's Carpets Plus, located just south of Ferris on Northland Drive in Big Rapids. Call us today, 231-796-2700.
Gilbert's Carpets Plus, color time. Stop and shop with us for a while. Gilbert's is there for you.
When the time comes to say goodbye, you need a funeral home that understands your family's needs. The Monk Janowitz Funeral Home in Big Rapids and the Janowitz Family Funeral Home in Remus have been a trusted part of this community for generations. They do take care of every family like their own, and they hear it time and time again.
My name is Christina Beers. I would say there's lots of funeral homes in the area, but there's only a small few that can do it with class and with quality and with that personal touch and care. And I would put Janowitz Family Funeral Home at the very top of that list.
Let them help guide you through a challenging time with care, respect, and compassion. The Monk Janowitz Funeral Home in Big Rapids and the Janowitz Family Funeral Home in Remus. Local, professional, and here for you when it matters most.
Where do you go for Michigan's #1 concealed pistol license course? The same place thousands of Michigan residents have over the past 15 years, the Barrington Firearms Training Center. The BFTC conducts state-certified CPL courses right here locally inside the Barrington Conservation Club at 3444 18 Mile Road in Barrington. For just $99, all you need to bring us is your Michigan ID to these all-inclusive one-day CPL courses, which include the use of firearms, ammo, eye and ear protection, coffee and donuts in the morning, and lunch at noon. That's right, just $99 gets you everything needed to take the police department instructed course that includes the training necessary to safely load, unload, handle, and store your firearm. Students will also be trained on when it is legal to defend themselves with a firearm under Michigan's Stand Your Ground law and Castle Doctrine. Call 231-250-7257 or go online at michigancpltraining.com to register for one of their upcoming $99 all-inclusive CPL courses. Get armed, get trained at the Barrington Firearms Training Center.
All right, back to Curries Corner here on B1039.
Back, yeah.
Yes.
I hope we're getting some good information out there, but the biggest thing is awareness, man. I tell you what, it could happen in your township, it could happen in your city, it could happen anywhere in the state of Michigan, but people start being aware of what's going on around their surrounding areas. You know, everybody's sitting there, well, it's not my area, I don't care. And I do, I think Bruce here, my guest, Bruce Borkavich, is the Big Rapids Township Supervisor, just newly elected last November to a position. If you'd asked him 5 years ago, would you like to be involved? And he came over and saw the surreal piece of property he bought here 11, 12 years ago, thinking him and his lovely wife, Vicki, was going to retire here. And I got a phone call coming in, so I'm going to take it. Bruce, welcome back to the show. I got to take a phone call.
Well, I've got a couple of things I can continue with. So just to back up a little bit, the way that our citizenry found out, the people who are getting the direct assessments found out, was a letter in the mail. I'm assuming, don't don't quote me on this, but it happened sometime in late April or May, I think. They got a letter in the mail that says, oh, by the way, we're doing the Tonkin Drain project, and here's how much we're estimating it's going to cost you. And I think the county can bond it, so a person can pay for it over 5 years, but when it's the bond, the interest rate's about 5%. So when you pay for it over 15 years, you're really paying a lot of money for it. The other interesting thing is that we have this at-large assessment. So again, at-large means everyone in the entire Big Rapids Township has to pay, and we, the township officials, hold that money for the people. So every person in the township has to pay, even when we're not even close to being affected to this. But then the people in the drain district are getting assessment. So they pay twice. They pay as taxpayers who put the money in our accounts for us to manage, and then they're getting a special assessment. So they're getting double dip, Pat.
How come though I noticed on the description of the Tonkin Drain area that it's going to be charged, like you say, doubled. There is some people not in it, and it's around them. How did they get?
We don't really know how that was done. That was done by the attorney and the engineers. What I can tell you is that, and Chris Zimmerman did a fantastic job. We had six or seven of us that appealed, one township and the rest individuals.
Yep.
And there were at least half of them, mistakes were made at the hearing, at the appeals hearing.
Right.
So Chris did a little bit of math with the attorney, and he did a fantastic job with this attorney. He was tearing her up. And he said, well, if we call this a random sampling, if we assume that the people who appealed, this is a random sampling, would you agree that about half of them had mistakes? And she begrudgingly, with lawyer talk and Kamala Harris word salad, admitted, well, yeah. And he said, well, couldn't we then assume that if there's 400 people in the drain district that are getting assessments, couldn't we assume that maybe half of them have mistakes that are made on their apportionment? And boy, that sent her into a tizzy. And I don't think it's unreasonable to say maybe half or at least a third conservatively have mistakes. So we have these gross errors that were made by either the drain commissioner, engineers, the attorney, or a combination of those people, and none more gross than the township. They're the ones who came up with 9.9%. We don't know how, because that isn't in the standard apportionment formula. So they came up with it. That was their call. We didn't like it, and we appeal it, and suddenly they're so far off that they double it. So that's incredible.
Well, now do you think the people that signed this petition, there must have been a study done at that time?
No study I've seen, Pat. The process is really simple.
Okay.
If 6 people say we want something done because of whatever, then a board of determination, just the board of citizens. And if they say 2 out of 3 say thumbs up, something needs to be done, the drain commissioner has the authority to move forward. There's no study. There's no, now they have the authority to move forward with it.
So they never go to a township meeting and say, hey, look at, this is what this is going to cost us. We've done the study, and you're going to be taxed for this. They never did that.
I'm a little hesitant to say that they never did anything in 18 or 19. We've looked at records that we can, meeting minutes. We've talked to the current board members who were on the board. No one remembers it. I can certainly tell you, Pat, since I've been in office, which my first meeting was January 2025, never heard a thing. The very first we heard about it was at our March board meeting.
Yeah, it was about, I'm going to shoot this at you. I think it was about 6 years ago that the board was told by the former supervisor that the Tonkin drain was being reviewed by the drain commissioner. That's all that was ever said, because I know somebody was on the board,
yeah.
and she told me that, and I said, well, did they money they're talking to do this? No, there was no amount of money talked about it, just that the issue was being looked at.
Yeah.
And that was the only time. That bothers me that our government can do that.
I was shocked. I actually went in and had a meeting with the drain. It was a very cordial meeting. She was very accommodating and polite.
Why wouldn't she be?
And we talked about, having I said, don't make the mistake I've made in my life where I committed to something, and I'm a forceful A personality, and I commit to it, and I go straight forward with it, and then I find out later I made a mistake, or there were better ways to do it. I said, have the ability to pause or to stop and get more information and meet with more people and hear from the people and hear from the government. Don't ever get so committed to something that you'll never stop and listen and think and learn more. But in this, because the law grants a drain commissioner that authority, I think that becomes intoxicating. And I'm part of we call our group We the People, where, the people should be in charge. It's what the Constitution says.
Let me throw a scenario at you, Bruce. All right, way to break the American public by doing this. For example, you go down to Stanwood. You got Kenny Rettenberg down there. You got the Curries down there. You got, I won't mention all the farmers' names, Pat McHugh, just a lot of people with a lot of land. So if you have this happen now, let's say it's on Northland Drive, and you have the Kramers down there. Let's use Steve and Charlie Kramer. They own probably 2 blocks of land down there. For you folks that don't know what a block of land is, well, you're out on this one. But anyway, it's a lot of land, yeah. So anyway, Bruce, John Doe buys across the street, and their water flows into that drain that goes across the street, and this guy's building a subdivision. Now we got a drain problem, so he goes to the drain commissioner and says, hey, all this water is coming on, flooding my subdivision. We got to do something about this. Now you got Charlie and Steve over there own 2 blocks of land there. All their water's going into this drain. How in H are they going to be able to afford for that? If it's a complicated drain, and it could be.
Absolutely.
So they could essentially lose their land on a $6 million project. Hell, it ain't worth keeping their land. They must give it away. So I guess if you look at it this way, take the Big Rapids Township. It's grown quite a bit in the last 30 years, so we have a lot more houses in section. Well, like on 220th there, where Quality Car and Truck is, that used to be owned by 1 person. Now it's owned by 5.
Right.
So it's divided amongst that 5. But if that 1 person owned all that land, Don would be in big trouble if he owned it all. I mean, his is up there close to 100. But so there's nothing stopping them from bankrupting people.
Yeah.
Except for one thing. If they had transparency, she should have went to that township right away and said, look, at the engineering on this is going to cost us $2 million. I'm throwing that out there, folks. I don't know how much it is. I know it's over $1 million. She should have came right then and said to Bruce, the engineering cost, I just got an estimation to clean the drains or to reroute the drains, whatever they're doing. I can't believe it's this much money. But and then going back to flow this one to you. Have you had anybody complain in 5 years?
Not
anybody?
No, not a person. We had numerous landowners who've testified or spoken who said, I live here. The area you're talking about, we don't have a problem. Yes, in 2018, we had this big storm, and it's going to happen. No one right now is making any claims about flooding over the last several years. And to go back to your other question, there, Pat, I would take it one step further than just communication by the drain commissioner. I would have started this project if I were a drain commissioner, even to heck with my authority, forget your authority. I would have put together a task force. Task force are kind of like committees. I hate using the C word, committees, but a task force is a short-term committee that you use to help solve a problem. I would have put together a task force, and it would have been a representative from the county commission, from the township, some big landowners, MDOT, road commission, some
Scott
business
Morningstar.
owners. Exactly. Some
Freddie
business owners.
Myers.
And sat down and say, here's what we perceive as the problem. What do you think?
Yeah.
What are some solutions? Let's talk about some solutions. And rather than, well, because I have the authority to do it, we're going to do this, but we're not bringing in a Chevy Caprice. We're bringing in a Cadillac, and you're going to pay for it. Because that's basically what I think happened. So I guess it's a leadership difference in our styles.
Yeah.
No one knows everything about anything, and imagine if the drain commissioner had established that type of collaborative process with all the stakeholders, because then what you'd get buy-in, and you'd get discovery. Is it really a problem? And if it is, let's try phase 1. And then if that doesn't work, let's reassess a year later and let's try phase 2. But this whole thing, I hate to look backward, but this reminds me of something else that tried to get rammed down our throat in the last couple of years around here.
Well,
whereas people are making decisions behind the scenes, and then it's a done deal. We heard that before, haven't we?
Yeah, some people are saying, why are these people on the outside of the township getting involved? I said, because America's getting involved. When this outfit up north started to think they were coming in and it was a shoe-in deal, the people in America got involved. I mean, from all over the state of Michigan. It wasn't just Mecosta County. That's the other thing, is when you're supporting something like this, you better watch out, folks, in Michigan. I don't care where you're at. This can happen in your county. This can happen in your township. It probably already has. Well, it's happened in the city. But I don't think it was quite extensive as this one, right?
I don't know. I don't think so. But
it's bad enough. It's putting a tax burden on those people like Tim Burns down there. But he's got it. Well, he's got a good retirement.
We have several properties in the city that are in the Tonkin drain and in the Ives drain. So not only did they get an assessment, which they may still be paying on from Ives, but now they're getting one for Tonkin.
Yeah. How does that happen?
It's just boundaries, I guess. Yeah. But again,
property on 220th that are in it, the water there does flow through culverts to the highway. And if you go down those ditches, you hardly ever see any water in them. They're dry most of the time. There's not even any weed in there.
Especially the last several years.
Right.
It's
just a money grab thing, isn't it?
Well, it is. It's full speed ahead. Get out of our way, people. I mean, listen, I'm a simple guy, Pat. You know I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but when I see what they did,
smarter than 90% of us.
When I see what they did to Big Rapids Township in the appeal, it's either unbelievable.
How did he justify that?
How did the Board of Review?
No, the judge.
The judge wasn't there, Pat.
Well, who justified the $15,000?
The Board of Review. Oh, I'm sorry, the bond. Yes, that's the judge sets.
How did he justify?
No question, no idea.
No answer?
I've never heard of, Pat, of bonds being required in a civil process. It's a criminal process. That's how ignorant I am. I didn't know it was even allowed.
What court did it go to?
Probate court.
Why would it go to probate?
That's just what the law says. The appeal it does seem a little surprising. And that's what the law says. It goes to probate court. And the drain code says, we had to correct the attorney at the meeting the other day. The attorney said that the judge has to require a bond. No, the drain code says the probate judge may assess a bond. And it doesn't say how much. And even in the criminal world, we're required to put a reasonable bond on something.
Right.
And so the shame of it was there were numerous people that wanted to appeal.
I was one of them.
The appeal process. And they said, I can't afford $15,000. And that is, I used in the meeting the other day numerous times the words repugnant, didn't I, Pat? That's repugnant. If someone wants to exercise their due process, their process as a citizen to redress their government, it's right in the Constitution. And they can't, because they can't post $15,000 bond to have their day in court.
Yeah, God has gifted me well in this world and the community I live in. And what bothers me is that I go back that same old thing. Incumbents usually win a race. It's pretty hard to beat somebody's incumbent in America, except unless you're Donald Trump. But the people are standing up more and more, but I hope it's not too late.
I don't think it is, Pat.
Yeah.
We've lit a fire in this county with our group that is spreading all over the country. We've got people from all over the country that get a hold of the key players, Jason, Lori, some of the key players, Orman and Terry, some of the key players, and they have spoken and helped and helped to inspire. I don't think it is too late. I think the last national election showed it's not too late. However, people, if you sit at home and you're ignorant, you're worried about what you're having for dinner and when you're going to cut the lawn and everything else, and you allow this to happen, it's your own fault. People get the government they deserve, Pat.
Yeah.
And I was one of them, Pat, and you're the one who kicked me in the butt not long ago, especially when the Goshen fight started about getting involved.
Right.
And I'm telling you, I know maybe some of the voters won't like this. I still don't want to be township supervisor. I did it because I felt it was time to get off my butt, put my money where my mouth is, and represent the people. Do I want to? Is this something I've wanted to do? I want to hunt and fish and spend time with my wife and my grandkids. I don't want to be a township supervisor, but people, it's more than protesting or talking on a radio show. People need to get involved and be willing to run for those offices, run for boards, be on a planning commission, be on a committee somewhere. Get involved to keep, because we have demonstrated in this county that there are elected officials who have decided that they know what's good for the rest of us. Nothing scarier to me than when an elected official says, sit back, everything's okay, I know what's good for you.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of people waking up right now, but, I still hear some of the people saying to me, well, my vote doesn't count. What do you say to those people?
Well, it's your opportunity to vote. When I was in college working for an engineering company, and I had this conversation with he was a retired inspector from the city of Flint who then worked for the city of Burton, and we were having this same discussion. And he looked at me, I said, why should I vote? And he looked at me, and he said, because it's your opportunity to voice your opinion.
Yeah.
And I thought, when you drill down, yes, and we've fought wars, and men and women have died and ruined their lives, and for our ability to voice our opinion.
Yeah. You ever get going through your mind there, Bobby, that you have so many questions for a guy that you can't remember which one you were going to ask him first?
That's because I talk so much.
Well, no, you do a good job. But, I got to ask you a question, though, about you personally. You grew up in the Flint area.
Yep.
And that's been known as a union area.
Yeah.
So most of the time it's pretty democratic.
Very much still is.
Yeah. When did your eyes get woken up?
Well,
nothing wrong with Democrats.
No.
They believe in living their life the way.
Well, first of all, the Democrats I grew up around, Pat, were very much like Republicans right now. This is a different Democratic Party. They were great people, and interestingly enough, those of us that were conservative, Republican, we never argued or fought or hated each other.
Wait a minute.
I think
now you're saying you're Republican at that time. You were?
I was conservative at that time.
What was your dad?
My dad was a conservative, a Republican.
Oh, okay.
However, my maternal grandfather worked at Fisher Body in the skilled trades. Mm-hmm. He and my grandmother were the most conservative people you'll ever be around,
really?
But they were Democrats because the union told them they were Democrats.
Yeah.
However, that Democratic Party was much different. They stood for common sense. They tried to represent the working man. The Democratic Party, as I see it right now, is largely perverted.
How'd it get that way?
The same thing we've been talking about. People not willing to get involved. People who are bobbleheads.
Well, they got involved.
But a lot of people just let things change, and they're too busy. As I said, I want to put a pool in. What's for dinner? I want to have a beer tonight. We're going hunting. I want to go up north. When am I going to get a new car? They're too busy doing this stuff, and they let power-hungry people get into power. And so the Democratic Party now isn't even a shadow of what it was when I grew up.
Mm. Why do people hate Donald Trump? I know we're jumping subject. I'm just curious. What do you think really that he has done? I know you like him. I know I respect him sometimes, and I don't mean that being a smarty, but I think we did need his cap out there.
100%.
But why doesn't people like him?
Because he's a threat to their ideology. He's a threat to their party line. People have on both sides, you see it, Republican or Democrat, they subscribe to the party. It's, and regardless of what the party is standing for, or where the party is going, they have a blind loyalty to it. But that allegiance to that party is based on many times your own things you're going through personally. I think there are many people who are Democrats out there who have experience personally with abortions, have experience personally with family members or themselves or friends that maybe are of a different sexual orientation, and they perceive that this is the party for us. So I'm going to buy into everything this party does. I'm throwing in completely, and then they see Donald Trump with his strength, his assertiveness, the fact that he doesn't act like a politician, the fact that he gets things done. He's a giant threat to them personally, their personal ideology.
It's just hard to believe that you wouldn't want to live in a life that the opportunity's there for you every day. You can get an education wherever you go, and if you're a minority, you can get whatever you want. The opportunity and everything that he's given us right now. And then what's your thoughts? We'll get back to the Big Rapids Township, but on the tariffs, what's your thoughts on that?
Pat, my father, boy, would you have loved my dad. Oh, you and he could have talked for hours. He's a very, very smart man, son of immigrants, not educated, went in the Army, very, very intelligent. Mm-hmm. And I remember in the 70s, he read the Wall Street Journal every day. And I remember said, look at this. He said, a Chevy Caprice, and it was Japan at the time, costs $55,000 for probably a $5,000 car by the time it gets to Japan because of the tariffs. Yep. And he said, why is this so hard? Why don't we charge the exact same thing to those countries that they're charging us? Because at the time we were being flooded with Toyotas and Hondas, everything Japanese made. And my dad would just cut to the chase so brilliantly. It was so simple. Well, fast forward, my dad's blood must be in Donald Trump because they postulate things very similarly. It's simple. What Donald Trump isn't, we're not trying to ruin other countries. We're trying for equity. I hate using that word equity because of the DEI movement, but we're looking for equity. If you're going to charge us, 125% to bring our products into your country, we're going to do the same. How do you fight that, regardless if you're a Republican or Democrat?
Yeah, I know.
How do you fight that?
You can't. I'll just give you an example. I'll never forget George Farnham was his name. He worked for a company over in Flint, sold radiators. Now, at that time, I had a great business going in the radiator business. I mean, I covered all of Mecosta County, Reed City, Everett. People come from all over to my radiator shop. And he pulled up in his New Yorker one day, and he says, come here, I'm going to show you what's going to put you out of business. And so we walked out of the shop there, and I took a minute, and he popped the trunk, and there was a brown box, and it said made in Mexico. And next to that, it said made in China. Well, I said, so where are we going with this? He goes, you know how much that radiator cost right there? They're going to sell that to the auto parts store for $60. You're getting $120.
Wow.
I said, yeah. He goes, just a matter of time, Pat. And last year I closed the radiator shop up, but we stayed in there as long as we could. And the people wanted the cheapest they could buy, and that's the way a lot of Americans are, and put me out of business there in the radiator business. But we were diversified. But it's still, to this today, like last week, Gordy Gilbert called me up. He said, I got a radiator looking, Pat. Gordy, I don't fix them anymore. We sold everything we had, and there's nobody in the area that does radiator works thanks to the cheaper models made in Mexico and China and Vietnam and all that. They can ship that radiator up here or over here for $60.
It's crazy. But that's what President Trump's doing. And people, a very dear friend, he was a Court of Appeals judge, Peter O'Connell was one of my mentors. And if he could have, he would have called me into his office every day and slapped me on the side of the head and said, "Are you thinking yet?" Because he tried to teach me to be a double and triple thinker. And what Donald Trump is doing right now is laying the foundation to bring our manufacturing back in this county, in this country, because we all know if all of these factories we've chased away overseas come back to this country, our national costs of taking care of people is going to drastically. We're going to have business taking care of people. So there may be a few bumps in the stock market. There may be a few things going. People have to be a double and triple thinker. Be intelligent enough to look at, well, what is he doing ultimately? Ultimately, he's creating an environment for massive industry back in the United States again, like when we grew up and when we were teenagers and in our 20s.
Yeah. It's just mind-boggling. No, people will seek out the cheapest thing they can buy for that
product. It's our fault.
Not knowing what the long-term effect is.
Yeah.
It's just like recently, just take a second on gasoline, for instance. Gas fluctuates, it can go up and down 20 cents sometimes, and you see it pop up 30, and people wonder how this station can sell it for $2.99 and you're getting $3.19 or $3.09 or $3.39 down the road or whatever. This is just a little lesson for everybody out there. If you own 20 gas stations and you want to put a local guy out, which ain't going to happen here. I'm not crying here saying, oh, I'm hurting for business. We got very good, loyal customers, and we're pretty competitive. We'll be okay. And we're diversified. So I'm not talking about Curries. But I said, if you have 20 gas stations, 19 of them are at $3.39, you can go down to $2.99 in the area if you want to put somebody out of business like their neighbor. And it happens all the time. And then the minute that neighbor's gone, that price skyrockets, and what happened? I liked you guys. You were selling it cheap as hell, and all of a sudden I'm starting to pay. They'll spot price. It happens all the time. A lot of times for years, Cedar Springs was the cheapest up and down the corridor, or 131 to Cadillac. Always the cheapest. It's not that way anymore. They put the right person out, and now it's all corporate owned down there. Yeah. That's the way the game works, folks. But if you think you like that local guy and he gives to your school and all this and that, you look at the corporates, they don't give too much back to a community, nor do they live in the community. It's just like our downtown, the chocolate factory down there. You can always buy chocolate cheaper at Walmart, or you can always buy that ice cream cone cheaper someplace else. But the milk spot down there, and then Carlene down to Kilwins, they all support the town as best as they can. But the less they have, the less they're going to give out. But so we do need to look at that. I had a conversation with Tyler Hunty this morning. Now there's a guy that's an entrepreneur.
He's a hustler.
Yep. I admire that kid for his age.
Yep.
You know what he's doing? Unlike a lot of good Americans are doing right now, he's taking a risk.
Yeah.
To make himself and his family
That's what
better.
This country was built on.
Yeah. I would like to see him get involved someday in the political arena.
Yeah.
But like I told him this morning, right now is a crucial time for your kids and your family. That's number one. And he's got a lot on his plate, so I suggested not to do too much of that right now. But
don't let it get away.
Nope. Be informed and get behind people that have the same ideas that you have and the background that you want to see happen in your area. But so there's a lot of Tylers. We need more of them. I don't know where I'm going. I just want you folks out there to know that your small business, be it in Everett, Reed City, like Sonny's up there in Reed City. I try to go up there and eat. I try to eat here in Big Rapids a lot. But it's kind of fun to go out and see that small town atmosphere. Now, last Saturday, Luke Wyckoff was in, and the Shibley and all of us were sitting at the table, and we had a guest. His name's Jack or Frank. I can't remember. My memory's going to hell on me. But anyway, he's new in the area. He's from California. He's not a liberal. And I shouldn't say there's anything wrong.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. And I asked him, I said, I got to ask you what brought you here. And I think he's a research guy, so he can research things at home. So he said, well, I wanted to get out of California. He lived in that area. Well, yeah, who wouldn't? And he said, I started getting on the computer looking at cities. And fast forward, which is hard for me to do, he wanted to live on a river. Fast forward, Big Rapids popped up. House for sale in Indian Village, next to Luke there. Or a couple houses from him, doesn't matter, no relevance there. But anyway, he met Luke, and that's how we met him. And I said, how did you pick Big Rapids? He goes, he said, I flew in to Grand Rapids, I guess, drove up here, looked at Big Rapids, drove through your town, stopped in your gas station, went around town, and I loved it. There was something about this area that attracted me. It was just a very nice community. It's small enough to enjoy, and you have a little industrial, but not too much.
Got some stores.
You got a nice, Perry Street's very nice. Your downtown's quaint. And, the people.
Yeah.
I don't know how he could figure the people are good, but I guess
Stopped
we all
at your,
smiled.
your station, probably.
Well, maybe. But anyway, so he's here for life now. So when people say we got to have growth, like I was telling Tyler this morning, that's the kind of growth we need. We need those people who are tired of the industrial sites that they're living around. We need them to come up here. Now, that being said, a couple of weeks ago on my wife's birthday and her sister Pam, they're twins, Phil and I decided to take them to Zeeland. So I said, let's take the back road. So we went on over a 19-mile road over to 37, down over through Fremont, got on Maple Island Road. You know where that's at? It goes straight on into Zeeland, back roads.
Okay.
Anyway, coming back from Zeeland, I said, let's go through Allendale. Have you been through there lately, Grand Valley?
I mean, a year ago.
Do you know they're number 3 in students down there in the state of Michigan?
Yeah,
they're only
growing.
Like a couple hundred below
They
Michigan.
never got hurt with this whole decline in enrollment like the other universities did.
Well, they did. They're doing something right.
Yeah.
And I think I know what it is, and I can't say it on the radio. But if you look at their infrastructure down there and what's going on down there, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Bobby, have you been down there?
Yeah.
But anyway, my hat's off to them. What, they got 30-some thousand students?
I don't know.
You never hear of any protesting down there, no riots down there.
No, unless
security's good.
Except for when we go down and kick their butt in football.
Yeah, that's the only time. But anyway.
I couldn't leave that one alone.
Why do people move there? So I stopped. And I stopped at a restaurant. And I was talking to the people. Where did you come from? Well, we lived in Wyoming before. We lived in Grand Rapids before. What'd you move for? We wanted to get out of the city.
Yep.
I said, why the hell didn't you come up to Big Rapids? Well, this is close to Holland, Grand Haven, Spring Lake. All that is right there. You know why they moved out there? Rural. They wanted to get out of the hustle and the bustle.
A slower way of life.
Traffic is more manageable.
Yep.
So we have that here. All we have to do is really get it out. Like that Frank, somebody did a good job marketing Big Rapids. Maybe it's our marketing director at the city here. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it came up on the computer.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
Said.
And you talk about local shopping. My wife and I, a few weeks ago, we were ready for some new furniture. So we went over to Van Drees. Can I give this plug? I mean, I'm telling a story. I'm not doing an advertisement. Went in and saw Chelsea. She's awesome, a gal.
Yeah, she is.
She, you know who I'm talking about? Yeah. She's awesome. And she worked with us. But right away, she's kind of like, what are you looking for? I said, Chelsea, I want 2 things. I want something made in America, and I want to buy local.
Good for you.
And she did that. We've got it ordered. It's coming. We have saved $500 going to Mount Pleasant or Grand Rapids? Probably.
Yeah.
But now I'm helping people in Cadillac and Mount Pleasant and Grand Rapids and not in Big Rapids. And we talk about what we want here. We need growth. We need stores. We need industry. No, we need you to shop locally so these places quit closing.
And we need people that work at Ferris to live in Big Rapids.
Absolutely.
That's what we need, Bob.
Especially higher level administrators. Many of them do not live here.
Yeah, how can they call us racist when they don't even live here and know the people? Come in my store and see the greatest people on earth.
They certainly
all the way
are.
from Dan Spadowski to Kim Wells, Pete Kent. By the way, he's out of the hospital, folks.
Good morning, Pete.
That guy
I miss you.
has got 12 lives. He's on number 9 right now, so he's got 3 more to go. Then he's going to be deceased. But that guy is the pinnacle of a human being.
Yeah,
I'm telling you what, he's the inspiration. You You look at these people that have one limb or whatever. There's always somebody worse off than you.
Yeah.
Pete looks at life on the positive side.
He does,
and we should all
still
emulate him.
the school board president with that energy and enthusiasm.
That's another story. We won't talk on that, but no, I love the guy.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're glad he's home, and Renee, being the good daughter that she is, brings him in the station and then picks him up, and
Renee's the one that's the principal at the elementary school. My granddaughter went there. What a school! What a school, Pat. High achieving. If every school in the country was doing what Riverview is doing, we wouldn't be 44th in the nation. They are professionals. When I say grind on those kids, I don't mean that in a negative way. They push and then grind. These kids are sponges. And when I see the growth, my granddaughter had Terry Garner as a first grade teacher. And, the sad thing is Terry's going to retire someday. What a loss that will be.
Well, Melissa Shively is.
But when I see the growth in my first grade granddaughter this year, it's amazing. So, Renee, if you're listening or someone's talking to you, God bless you for what you do for those little kids.
Yeah, she does. She is responsible, but those teachers are the ones that make
amazing.
It happen there. But that being said, it's the parents.
Yes.
You go up to Everett, they got some of the greatest kids you'll ever meet up there. You know why?
I taught
they
school
got
up
parents.
there, Pat.
I know you did. You go to Reed City, got some of the greatest kids in those schools up there. They're all blue ribbon as far because they come from good parents.
Well, and parents are.
We got some disruptive ones. We got to get rid of them. Trump's working on it, Bob.
Yeah.
Bob, you got the cutest little smile. You should be on a cartoon. What could we call it? The B1039 Children's Hour?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, sounds like what could go wrong.
Yeah. But anyway, my God, Bruce, we only got 7 minutes left.
I've got one quick thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
It reminded me
time.
when I was working.
Jen ain't here. She can't cut us off.
When I was working on my
what's the old lady doing back here?
My master's degree, we were assigned a book, and I encourage everyone to read it. Pat, you would love it. It's called The Walmart Effect. Let me take 2 minutes to describe it.
Go ahead.
So in this book, it talks the phenomena of a place like Walmart. So Pat Curry invents a widget. It's a really nice widget. And he opens a factory. Geez, there's 17 people working for him. And in his first year, he sells them for $1 or for $10 a piece. In his very first year, he makes $10 million. People are happy. They got benefits. They got a little bonus coming. And Pat gets picked up by Walmart. Oh, boy. Now you're talking about Pat used to sell in Michigan. Now he's going to sell nationwide, eventually worldwide. So Walmart tries it out. The next year, they order 10 million. But they say, well, Pat, we're going to order 10 million, but you need to sell them to us for $8. Well, why not? Pat's now a multimillionaire. In the following year, they say, Pat, your widget's selling really well nationwide. We need 100 million widgets, but you have to sell them to us for $5 a piece. Well, do the math, people. And this dynamic actually happened. That keeps happening until Pat has the ability to make so much money, but the people in that factory can no longer produce them for $5 a piece. It's not feasible. And Walmart says, well, you know what? If you don't, we're not going to buy one from you. And where does Pat go? Now, Pat wouldn't do this. I'm using as an example. Where does he go? To China. Because manufacturing costs are so much lower. So he moves his business to China, and suddenly he can produce them for $5. Maybe there's a $200 million order the next year, and he has to do it for $3. This isn't a fable. There are numerous companies. Look up the history of Rubbermaid. Everyone remembers Rubbermaid, right? Yeah. This is exactly what happened to Rubbermaid, and they moved operations to China. Yeah. So it's a fascinating book. And then what does it come back to? It's just like we have a responsibility for our own government. Don't go to Mount Pleasant, I'm not picking on them, or Cadillac or Grand Rapids, because you can buy some furniture a little bit cheaper. Because you're not helping your community. It isn't all about the bottom line. It isn't all about the dollar. And the problem is, we insisted on being able to go buy a hammer for $6, not $18, because it's made in America. It's our own fault as consumers.
Yeah.
But it's called the Walmart Effect. I encourage anyone to get it. It's a great read.
Yeah. Well, it's just like it goes back to my radiator shop. I was thinking there, I think the closest radiator shop now is Traverse City and Grand Rapids. Comstock Park, Hankinson's on River Road. Dan and I and Dave are really good friends. They're down there still going, but they're in Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
But like he even said, he's picked up a few from here, a few from Cadillac. I mean, people have to, you know, and if they would have just stuck with me and bought that, but, you know, I couldn't blame them. Half off from China.
Yeah.
You're going to buy from Curry's Radiator and pay $128 when I can buy it at Big Rapids Auto.
I get it.
68.
People are hurting. I get it. I get it.
Well, I don't. But in the long run, how did they pay for it before? They weren't hurting.
Yeah.
Our economy was better back in the 70s and 80s. You
True.
know, we have had our recessions and stuff, but
Yeah.
but now I don't know how we're doing it unless we do what we're doing.
Yeah.
We got to bring jobs back.
Well,
here.
I think we're laying the groundwork for that, Pat.
Yeah.
Nationwide, I think you're going to see a revolution here.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I hope so. I mean, I like I tell the young people today. You know, I mean, boy, live within your means. But first of all, you got to have means, don't you?
Yeah.
Oof.
No doubt.
Yep.
No doubt.
Well, anyway, we really appreciate coming in, Bruce. I just hope this is opening up and opens up a dialogue from people in Mecosta County, not just Big Rapids and Big Rapids City. I hope it's going all the way over to Barrington. I hope the Williamses are listening today. It's a Sunoco station over there. Great people over there. Could happen to them tomorrow.
Yep.
And we all know Mecosta County's not the richest land in the world. But, you know, I really hope that people open up their eyes when it comes to the ballot box. I hope the neighbors talk to neighbors. You saw that this last election, and I hope this next election, like you say, something might happen in January. I hope it does, because you got to communicate. You got to communicate and see what really they can afford. That money could go to so many good things in this area. I mean, it could go. You know, what they're doing is they're taking money out of my pocket and the rest of them in this zone, and saying, okay, I want $5,000 from you in the next 10 years. I know, so it's $500 more or whatever. That $500 could go to the Angels of Action. It could go to the Manna Pantry.
Certainly could.
Could go to Project Starburst. Now it's not going to, because we don't have the money. You know, I saw Mrs. Cousineau the other day.
Yes.
She's got quite a nice piece of property.
She's such a great lady.
Yeah, and her age, she has to do this.
Yeah.
And then it could go on to the next generation in a lot of places, because a lot of us are getting older.
That's why,
our kids are going to end up paying for it.
You probably saw me a little more animated and emotional at the meeting the other day than you normally see me. I'm upset about this. Why am I upset? Because I'm hearing my people, and they're just frustrated and livid, and the whole process has opened my eyes to we're supposed to be running this country. It's we the people. And, you know, the way this was done from the secrecy and the appeal process and a bond and decisions that were made, it reeks of incompetence or corruption or both.
Well, when you said what that Japanese guy said, once again, say it again.
I fear all we have done is to awaken a sleeping giant.
Well, I told my wife, I said, I'm going to open up somebody's eyes this morning, and that was, 3 years ago when I took you out there?
Yep.
Brad Luban and you and I said, I'm going to get that man involved. That's what we need.
See, I keep telling you I'm not very bright, and you tell me how smart I am. No,
you are.
I need a big smack in the side of the head sometimes, and you gave me that big smack in the side of the head.
We got to do that with everybody now.
Yeah.
Hey, Bob, I want to say before we leave, our sponsors. I want to thank Bob Aldridge for letting me on here, Jim and Dom Theodore. Wish them well. Let me see. I'm going to take that. Big Rapids Pennzoil. I'll talk about that for a minute. Zach Wells has done a great job down there. His dad, Kim's, down there doing oil changes, I think.
We go there exclusively. They're amazing.
Yeah,
they really are. They're awesome.
Yeah, they are. They're quick.
Yep.
In fact, I'll tell you what. We were taking a trip to Florida, and I said to my wife, did you get the oil change? She goes, oh, I forgot. 10 minutes to 8, I called Kim up. I say, hey, I need an oil change before we go to Florida. Boom, go on down there. The guy should be there. Boom, they were there. Yeah. Got me out by 8 o'clock. I was on the road. And Wenger Insurance, what can you say? Everybody needs insurance. At least give them a chance to quote you. We got some great insurance people in this town, but right now Wenger Insurance is a big sponsor, and they've been right here from the start. We appreciate Seth. DW2 Drywall, everybody knows what Dale Wiley's done for our community. Great guy. Janowitz Family Funeral Home, locally owned. just right out of Remus there. She's a very nice gal, bought Monk Funeral Home. So the two of them, she's going pretty good there. If you die, if you're thinking about dying, get a hold of Janowitz Funeral Home. Great people. Gilbert's Carpet Plus, if you need some carpet to lay down on tonight, or you need it for your dog, Bob. Do you lay on the carpet much? But if you do, get it from Gilbert's Carpet Plus Color Tile. They're great people. They're just south of town, right next to the Township. Bruce sees them every day.
Yep.
George and Tom, two great people, and their wives are even better. And then we have Barrington Firearms Training Center. Everybody knows. What's the name of that show again? Stand Your Ground.
Stand Your Ground.
Yeah.
Casey.
Boy, he does
a great
too.
job.
Yeah, he is a great guy. Yeah, he's great for our community. And he's done just a great job for a lot of people. I went through his course, so if you're ever thinking about going through an arms course, Cal and him do a great job over there. B1039, what can we say about them? They have the best radio station in Western Michigan. Dom and Jen came here, how many years ago, Bob, now? 9 years they've been here. It seems like it was just the other day. She wore a B outfit downtown Big Rapids, listened to B1039. A lot of people are. The other day I was going to Grand Rapids, taking the wife down there for shoulder surgery, and we listened to you all the way down past Rockford. So you have a big listening area, and then almost to Mount Pleasant city limits. So folks, if you're listening and you want to get the word out on your product and you have something new in line, get a hold of us at 1039. It's very reasonable. It's cost effective. And if it doesn't work, you just quit advertising. But I think if you quit advertising, don't give it a shot, you might not stay in business. I think advertising is a big tool. You get the right radio station. 1039 is the right station for you. All right, Bob, it's a couple minutes after 10. We appreciate you not cutting us off here. I want to thank our guest, Bruce Borkavich, one of our great patriots of America, not just Big Rapids, but you've been around a lot, Bruce, and we really appreciate the information you shared with us. We'll have to have you back on and update us on what's going on. But you know what? Today's show is over. You might talk about it to your friends and you might not. And that's why I think it's very, very important that we just don't let this lie and forget about it, because it's not just a small section of Big Rapids or Mecosta County that this is affecting. This could affect Morton Township.
Certainly
this could affect the Big Rapids town, or the other townships in Mecosta County, Isabella. It doesn't matter where you're at. We've got to get involved, folks. So God bless you all, and God bless America.
Curries Corner.
Brought to you by Big Rapids Pennzoil and Auto Repair, Seth Winger at the Winger Insurance Agency, Gilbert's Carpets Plus Color Tile, Barrington Firearms and Training Center, DW2 Drywall,
The Monk Janowitz Funeral Home in Big Rapids and the Janowitz Family Funeral Home in Remus.